can't do much better than Michael Jordan. Apparently you can, if you ask Isaiah Thomas, right, Mike? You can take this one. I'm entertained by this endlessly.
Well, I mean, this, first of all, consider the source. It is Isaiah Thomas. We know there's no love lost there. That said, my man Zeke told Sports Illustrated that when it's all said and done, LeBron will pass Kareem as the GOAT. So let's focus on the latter part of that statement. We'll get to LeBron, whether he could be the GOAT, in a second. But the person he's passing on Zeke's list is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And like, first things first, Mike, that's not a hot take. That's not a unique take. That's not an unusual take, because the Kareem is underrated or overlooked in the GOAT conversation commentary is so common now until he's not overlooked or underrated in the GOAT conversation, because everybody brings him into the conversation whenever we're having it.
Yeah, but Mike, they bring him into the conversation. It sounds good. It all sounds good, and they say, hey, look at these numbers, which you see these numbers here, which are tremendous for Kareem, 6 MVPs and 6 championships. And they cite all the reasons why Kareem is in the conversation, yet after that conversation, he falls out of the conversation again. And I think part of it, I think when you talk about the greatest of all time, you almost have to have a few different categories. It's just natural. It's a natural bias for all of us. All of us say, let's say all of us under 6'8". If you're under 6'8", and you look at great players, it's hard to appreciate somebody 7 feet tall or over or taller, as Kareem is, 7'2", and just to appreciate their dominance. You almost need Chamberlain stats. And by the way, Chamberlain doesn't come up as much as he should either. A guy averaging 50 in a season, 100 points in a game, on and on. It's just hard for people to go there with all-time centers. I think there needs to be an all-time center.
You go perimeters and bigs? You go perimeters and big? Yeah. Because,
we go in the same places. We go Jordan, and LeBron gets in there, Magic gets in there. But it's hard for people to appreciate. Kobe gets in there. It's hard for people to appreciate Kareem and that unblockable skyhook that he had, and all the things that he did, and he dominated. And really go back, his career, he probably has the greatest basketball career.
Oh, high school?
Of anybody.
Power Memorial? Oh, my God. Oh, UCLA?
How about
not even close. Yeah, not even close.
I know
not even close.
Some old school. I got some old school finger waggers out there saying, "Oh yeah, you go forget about Bill Russell. You forget about 11 championships in 13 years and two championships in San Francisco and an Olympic gold medal. What's wrong with you?" But once again, it's an era thing and it's a center thing. It's hard for them to get recognition. But let's talk about can we do some diagnosis though? Can we do some psychoanalysis?
Before we do that, I want to get back. I want to stay on Kareem just for a second. I want to stay on Kareem because it's like it's not the wrong answer. It's not my answer for who's the greatest. I'm a Jordan guy. Obviously, it started the show that way, and I'm on record as saying that there's nothing LeBron could do to pass Jordan in my mind. Because for me, it's not about the number of championships. And look, truth be told, I'm not old enough to remember Lou Alcindor. I'm barely old enough to remember Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So it's unfair in a lot of respects because, you have a lot of people who didn't actually watch Kareem or before him, Wilt and Bill Russell in real time. And we're basically relying on old video stats, so there's an inherent bias for those of us who, the generation before me grew up with Magic and Larry Bird. That's why I tend to lean more toward Mount Rushmores in these conversations, just because it's the easy way out. It allows you to get more people in. I struggle with a Mount Rushmore, to be honest with you. But for me, my Mount Rushmore would be Jordan, Kareem, Russell, and that fourth spot, I kind of I rotate. I know Mount Rushmore is permanent. That's the problem. Mount Rushmore is permanent. You can't change it because it's like at one point, I would have had, Magic up there, and then or try to get Magic and Bird in there somehow. Is it LeBron now? Is it Kobe? So, Mount Rushmore's make it a little bit easier to give these people their just due, or even all-time starting fives. Because you're right, trying to pick one GOAT when they did such different things by the nature of their positions and in different eras, it's really hard. I told you I've never defaulted to the 6-0 in the finals thing, because don't tell me 6-0 is better than 6-4. Because that means you went 10 times. Or Magic won 5 and lost 4. He went 9 times. I mean, look how many times in a row, no less, that LeBron went to the finals. There's something to be said for that versus just going undefeated in the finals.
I think, and this Kareem thing is so interesting. You're right. I think another thing that factors into it, and this is not just with Kareem, I think this is the era as a whole. Kareem, when he got to Milwaukee, I mean, he dominated immediately. And Wilt was a little shook by him. Wilt couldn't stand him because, wait a minute, there's somebody new, because Wilt had to deal with Bill Russell, and Bill Russell blocked him for all those years. And just as Bill Russell retires, here comes this kid, and he's dominating immediately. So Wilt used to get up for Kareem and did everything he could, even in his later years, did everything he could to play his best games against Kareem. But the bigger story is, I think the 1970s in the NBA, they're often overlooked because you didn't have David Stern as a commissioner then. You didn't have the lucrative TV contract that you got when Stern came into the league, and they timed it up with Magic and Larry. You had East Coast, West Coast. And you heard the story before, Mike. When the Celtics won the championship, I think in 1981, Bird's first championship, the game was on, or the year before, 80. Magic's game, the 42-point tape delay. So he's getting it done. Game 6, and the NBA was kind of like an afterthought in the TV space, and I think a lot of those players get lost. And the other thing is, Kareem wasn't always nice to people. He wasn't always...
Yeah.
And I don't know. That should not matter. I think that's what you're
saying. No, I know what you're saying. Maybe I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt to hope that they don't hold that against him, because his resume, as laid out, is above something as petty as that. I mean, he's the most decorated player of all time when you put together, his stats and his championships, and like you said, going back to every level of basketball. But that point about him not being nice to people is interesting, because should we, as we evolve as a society, evolve slowly as a society, how much do you factor in just in terms of your affection and appreciation, and I don't mean to muddy the conversation, but how much do you factor in somebody's off the court influence? Because the way I would connect LeBron and Kareem is that LeBron, in many respects, took him a little longer, but in many respects, is a modern-day Kareem in terms of his off-court presence, his voice, his activism. I mean, Kareem was 19 years old when he was at the Cleveland Summit next to Russell and Jim Brown. Wow. He was participating in protests at UCLA. And the voice and the activist that he's remained throughout his life, the author, the spokesperson, the advocate for justice, before it was popular, so I look at LeBron, and I feel like LeBron, he has truly taken that torch, which I don't know if anybody carried it as well between Kareem and LeBron. He's taken that particular torch.
No, answer's no.
And run with it.
They didn't.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a great point about Kareem, just the totality, all the things that he's done. I remember one writer saying very well about Kareem. He said, most sports writers wanted to be athletes, but Kareem was the athlete who wanted to be the writer. He was that rare guy. And so he's extremely prolific in the literary space. So add that, add everything that he means to sport.
So who is your GOAT? Who is your GOAT then? I don't know if I've got a straight answer for you in terms of as you sit here right now.
You need one right now?
Yeah, give me one. Who's the best of all time? Yeah. Listen, nobody's going to hold you to it. If the facts change, so can your opinion.
Yes, you will. You're going to hold me to it.
No, I won't. I'll tell you why I won't hold you to it once you give me an answer. I'll tell you why I won't hold you to it.
Bill Russell.
Okay. Why were you reluctant to say Bill Russell? Why were you reluctant to say that? You act like you had a hard time getting that out. Why?
Because all right, because the championships mean, because that will sidetrack the conversation. I'm going to put a bookmark. I'm going to say Bill Russell and then bookmark. Because when I start talking about the championships, you're going to say what you said before, that shouldn't factor into it. But
that's just me.
Those guys,
that's just me.
Okay, but
that's just
he is also one of those guys who it was beyond basketball. It was 11
100%.
out of 13, but it was social justice. It was speaking out.
Yes.
It was doing things before it was popular to do it.
Yes.
In Boston, Massachusetts. And a lot of people get it twisted.
Yes.
They get this twisted, and it's important. This is an important distinction because they'll say, hey, Bill Russell, he had a problem with the Celtics. He had a problem with Boston. No, he had a problem with Boston. Yeah. But if you ask him, I remember talking to him, that's name dropping, but so what? As a matter of fact, not only that, I talked to Bill Russell. I was once in this is one of my favorite stories. I was once in a limo, and if I had a presence of mind, I should have challenged everybody in Roxbury as we were driving through to a 3-on-3 game because it was me, Bill Russell, and Dr. J in a limo just talking.
Okay.
All right, how great is that? But he once said that playing for the Celtics was like heaven for him. Like he just enjoyed playing for Red and his teammates. Did not enjoy the city, but he enjoyed the Celtics.